Hello, everyone. Coming up to Shavuos, I figure it's a good time to speak about Kabbalas HaTorah. It's a very interesting Gemara in Masechta Shabbos, Peiches Amud Aleph. Amar Rav Dimi. Rav Dimi says, the pasuk by Kabbalas HaTorah says, Vayisyatzvu betachtis hahar, that the Bnei Yisrael were standing at the foot of the mountain, at the foot of Har Sinai. Now, the word that the Torah HaKedoshah uses for the foot of Har Sinai is betachtis, at the bottom of the mountain. But the bays at the beginning of the word betachtis seems to imply that they weren't just standing at the foot of the mountain, they were standing in the mountain. Betachtis ahar. The bays at the beginning of the word means inside. So Rav Dimi notes that interesting usage of the word, and Rav Dimi says, Melame, this teaches us, Shakafa Aleihem Har Kigigis, that the Rabbeinu Shalom took the mountain, he uprooted Har Sinai, turned it over, and positioned it over the Bnei Yisrael as a dome. And the Rabbeinu Shalom said to them, Im Kabbalas HaTorah, if you accept the Torah, mutav, that'll be good. V'im lav, if you don't accept the Torah, pay tehek furaschem, then your burial will be here. Now, at face value, the Gemara in Shabbos seems to be saying that the Bnei Yisrael were coerced to accept the Torah. The Rabbeinu Shalom told them, if you accept it, fine. If you don't accept it, I'm taking the mountain, I'm dropping it on you, and that's going to be the end of you. Pay tehek furaschem. Well, in that case, the Kabbalah would seem very much to be a coerced Kabbalah. And indeed, the Gemara says, I believe it's Rava, Amar Rava. Rava says, Mikan moida rabba la'iraisa. This serves as a moida, is like a notification, la'iraisa, to the acceptance of the Torah. Now, a moida is a legal instrument. A moida is something, a notification that somebody gives over to a court to let him know, you should know that the deal that I'm about to make is not being made with my free will. This is a deal that I'm making, that I'm being coerced into. So he gives the Bezdin a moida. He gives them a notification that tells them that. So too over here, Rava says, this memra, a Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi says that the Rabbeinu Shalom did this to us and he coerced us to accept the Torah, this serves as a moida. And now, if the Rabbeinu Shalom would come and say Klal Yisrael is not being makabel the Torah, the Bnei Yisrael at least have like a pischin peh. They have something that they could say. They could say, well, our acceptance wasn't really with a full heart. Our acceptance was made under coercion. The Gemara finishes off, and the Gemara says that in the end, our Kabbalah is not one that we were coerced to make anyway, because the famous Gemara that says that by Purim, we re-accepted the Torah. Kimu v'kiblu, the Megillah says, and the Gemara darshans kimu v'kiblu. They were kimu masha kiblu kvar. There was a re-acceptance. They accepted the Torah again after the story of Purim out of love. So that was an acceptance that was made completely willfully and completely out of love. Okay, that's what the Gemara in Shabbos says. Now, what's very interesting about that Gemara is it gives you pause, and you look at it and you say, really? I mean, is that how we accepted the Torah? We know that we said Nasav and Ishma. We know the famous pasuk, we turned to Moshe Rabbeinu, and we said Nasav and Ishma, we will do and we will hear. And the Rabbeinu Shalom loved our acceptance of the Torah at Har Sinai. The Rabbeinu Shalom was very proud and very happy of our acceptance of the Torah. So how do we now have this Gemara in Shabbos that says that in reality we were coerced to accept the Torah? So this is a kasha that's asked by many. Tosfos in Shabbos discusses it as well. But I wanted to propose a new thought. I like to use the following analogy. Let's say somebody has a family business. Let's say somebody owns a hotel. And he owns the hotel for 30 years. This hotel has been in the family. And maybe they have employees that have been working for them for 20, 30 years. They know their children. They may even know their grandchildren. These are people that have been together for decades, and they treat each other like family. They really feel like family. One fine day, the accountant comes in, and he comes over to the owner of the hotel, and he tells him, listen, we have a real problem here. You know, the hotel's been here for 30 years. Business is not what it used to be. There's new competition springing up all over the place. There are newer properties with more modern facilities and more modern amenities. And we haven't, if you notice, business has been slipping. We have empty rooms, we have empty ballrooms, we have empty conference rooms, and we really need to stop the bleeding because you're losing money. And you lost money last month, and you lost money the month before, and the month before, and the business can't keep on going like this. So the owner goes, he sits down with the accountant, and he looks at the books, and he sees, you're right. We have a failing business over here. He turns to the accountant, he asks him, is there anything that we can do? So the accountant tells him there's only one suggestion that I could make. Maybe if you would call in all of the employees, and you would tell the employees what the situation is, and ask them, would they be willing to accept a 10% pay cut? If we could cut payroll 10%, and then we could go through all of the other expenses of the hotel, and we could cut expenses here and cut expenses there, then we could take the savings, maybe we could reinvest it, we could spruce things up a little, maybe we could run a nice marketing campaign, and maybe then we could start to regenerate some business, stop the bleeding, put in some more money, and maybe we'll turn the ship around and we'll once again have a viable, profitable business. So the owner says, you know what, it sounds like a good idea. He calls in the employees, and remember, these are employees that he grew up with. These are employees that he knows for years and years. They come to each other's simchas. They've lived together. They enjoy their simchas together. They mourn their losses together. These are not just regular employees. This is family. He calls them in, and he says, look, I have no choice. All I can do is I can ask you, do you want to take a pay cut? If you want to take the pay cut, then I can keep the business going. If you don't want to take the pay cut, then I got to turn out the lights. Now, is he threatening the employees? Is he telling the employees, take a pay cut or you're fired? That would be a threat. That would be a strong-arm tactic. That's not what he's doing. He loves these people. What he's doing is he's calling them in and he's saying, look, why is there a business here? I don't have a business here as a hobby. I don't have a business here so that it can drain my life savings. I have a business over here. A business has to be profitable. If the business is losing money, everybody understands the business is not a business. And in that case, it has to close down. So he's turning to the employees and he's saying there's no choice. If you'll accept the pay cut, so then we can turn things around and we still have a business. If you don't want to accept the pay cut, I understand. You don't want to take a pay cut. But then realize I need to turn out the lights. If there's no pay cut, I'm turning out the lights, I'm putting padlocks on the doors, and the business is over. Thank you. It was a fantastic 30-year run. We'll keep in touch. We'll still invite you to the simchas, and we hope you'll still invite us to the simchas. And there's no hard feelings. It's just, that's the way the world works. Businesses go up, businesses go down. There's nothing that I can do. I think at a certain level, it could be that's the same thing that happened here by Kabbalas HaTorah. Let's realize, why did the Rabbeinu Shalom create the world? The Rabbeinu Shalom created the world. The Medrash tells us that the Torah existed for 2,000 years before the world existed. I always forget the pasuk. Chukei Shamayim lo samtiv. I'm sorry, I always forget the pasuk. I don't know what it is. It's like a mental block. It's brought down by the Rav in the beginning of Masechtas Avos, that the Rabbeinu Shalom says that the only purpose of the world is the Chukei HaTorah. The purpose of the world is the Kiyum HaTorah. That's what the world is here for. The world is here for us to take the Torah, learn the Torah, follow the dictates of the Torah, and live a life of Torah, and learn Torah. That's what the world is here for. It's not here for anything else. The world is not here for people to drive BMWs. The world is not here for people to build bigger houses. That's not what the world is here for. The world is here for the Torah HaKedoshah. That's why it's here. Without the Torah HaKedoshah, there would be no world. Now, what did the Chazal tell us? The Chazal tell us that before Kabbalas HaTorah, the Rebbeinu Shalom went to the children of Esav, and he said, do you want to accept the Torah? The Bnei Esav said, what's written in the Torah? So the Rebbeinu Shalom said, it says, Lo Yisetzach, you're not allowed to kill. The Bnei Esav said, sorry, not for us. We don't want the Torah. He came to the Bnei Yishmael. He asked the Bnei Yishmael, do you want to accept the Torah? The Bnei Yishmael said, what's in it? The Rebbeinu Shalom says, Lo Yisignoiv, you're not allowed to steal. The Bnei Yishmael said, not for us. The Torah is not for us. Okay, so then the Rebbeinu Shalom came to the Bnei Yisrael. He said, do you want to accept the Torah? The Klal Yisrael said, Nasiv and Ishma. But the Rebbeinu Shalom let them know something. Kafa aleim har kigigis. The Rebbeinu Shalom didn't threaten them. The Rebbeinu Shalom said, look, the Bnei Esav didn't want the Torah. The Bnei Yishmael don't want the Torah. You want the Torah? If you want the Torah, mutav. If you want the Torah, so then the world has a purpose. If you want the Torah, so then you'll take the Torah, you'll build Batei Midrashim, you'll build yeshivas, you'll have kollalim, you'll sit, you'll learn Torah, you'll be mekayim the Torah, then the world has a kiyum. The world has a purpose. I'll keep the world going. But if you're not going to accept the Torah, then I got to turn out the lights. Poitek furaschem. Not pshat just a threat. Pshat is, there's no purpose to the world if there's no Torah. If no one's going to be mekabel the Torah, there's no purpose to the world. That's what the Rebbeinu Shalom was telling them. And it could be that the reason the Rebbeinu Shalom told this to them is to show them the tremendous chashivus of the Torah. This is something that we need to think about when we come to Kabbalas HaTorah. Let's remember that when we're mekabel the Torah, we are fulfilling the purpose of the world. We are giving value and giving reason to the entire existence of the world. That's what Kabbalas HaTorah is. V'im lav, if you're not mekabel the Torah, if you're not going to learn the Torah, if you're not going to fulfill the dictates, the mitzvahs of the Torah, if you're not going to learn Torah, paytek for aschem. The Rebbeinu Shalom says, I might as well turn out the lights. Then the world is purposeless. With Hashem, we should all take the lesson to heart. We should understand the immense chashivus of Torah. Realize that the entire creation, everything that you see out there, all of the hustle and bustle of the world, from one end of the world to the other, it's all there for Klal Yisrael to be mekayim the Torah. Without Klal Yisrael being mekayim the Torah, none of it continues to exist. Pay to hake for aschem. Mirza Hashem, we should all be zeichet to a true Kabbalas HaTorah. We should make the Rebbeinu Shalom happy with our Kiyum HaTorah. We should make the Rebbeinu Shalom happy with his world and happy to keep the world going in a good way. And in order to do that, we have to be mekayim the Torah, and we have to come to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and we have to say that we want to be mekayim the Torah the full way. We want to be Eskoil Tzedek. We don't want to have to say on Shvuas, Umipnei chata'enu galinu me'artzeinu v'nisrachaknu me'alad meseinu ve'ein anachnu yichaylim lalis v'leirois v'lishtakaveis lefanecha. We don't want to have to say that because of our chatoim we can't be mekayim all of the halachas of kachim, and we can't be mekayim the halachas of taharis, and we can't be mekayim the halachas of the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. We're not being mekayim the Torah the full way now. We can't. We need to be Eskoil Tzedek b'meher v'yameinu, she'yibana Beis Hamikdash b'meher v'yameinu, v'sham na'avodcha b'yira kimei olam u'chishanim kadmoni yos. Everyone should have a wonderful Kabbalas HaTorah, a wonderful Yom Tov. Thank you so much. Be well.